Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Main, awesome wife and dog mom for life. I'm a sex therapist turned sex coach, and I run a successful business selling relationship enhancement products. I absolutely love talking about all things sex. So you can expect this podcast to explore all things related to women's sexual health because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you discover and embrace what brings you pleasure so that you can own your sexual self. If that sounds good to you, then keep listening and let's fucking do this. Chelsea, thank you so much for coming on today. I am so thankful for Instagram and its wonderful resource that it is to people to be able to cross paths with you. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and just because we weren't recording at the time I said it, you all need to follow Chelsea because she is one of the most sexiest beings I've ever seen on Instagram. Just in the most tasteful, sophisticated goddess type of way. You're just, you breathe and radiate femininity. So thank you.
Wow, that feels so juicy. I'm gonna receive that for a moment. Ooh.
If you're anything like me, those things, I feel it's a straight tingle to my vulva. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, it's a straight pussy pulse.
Yeah. I love that. I've never heard that before. Yes. So tell us, how did you get into this type of work? So you really specialize in the femininity side of this, sacred sexuality. What's your journey been like?
Yeah, I love this question and I hate it. I get asked it all the time because I'm like, oh my God, it's been so many places. It started in so many places, but I can say now with confidence that this has been my dharma since the day I was born. There's no other path I can take. There's nothing else I could ever share or teach that would feel authentic. And maybe that's just for right now, but from what I've felt in my body and in my bones and in my truth, it's this is just who I am. And so, the path of sacred sexuality hasn't always been my path, and spirituality has. Spirituality's been my path my entire life. I've always cultivated a really deep connection to God in multiple forms, but I grew up very religious. So this is always a fun part of my story to tell because people see me now and they're like, what? Religious? You're pretty open. You must have been like this your whole life. And it's just not true. And it is there's a personal liberation that had to take place. And I never really lost that thread of spirituality or connection to God. So I grew up really religious and, went to private Christian school my whole life. My grandpa was a pastor. I lived with my grandparents from a young age. And so church was kind of it was dinner time. It was just every day. There was something that had to do with church. And so I grew up really heavily immersed in that culture. And also from a young age, I had this really deep desire to express. And I remember even just as a young child, the first time I discovered pleasure in the shower. I'm sure a lot of women can relate to this of when you're little, you just have that moment and you're like, what just happened?
Yep.
What just happened? And it was this shockingly awakening moment. And I vividly remember it happened in the shower at my grandparents' house. And I remember the library that my grandfather had, because he was a pastor, he had this huge library of all these books. And one of the books on the shelf was about sex. And I remember it was the only one I ever really cared to look at. And I thought there was something wrong with me. I was ashamed that I wanted to look at it, but I really wanted to, and that kind of went on my whole life. That kind of deep curiosity and draw, and desire to learn more. And, following that desire instead of rejecting it is really what has allowed me to step into the role that I am in now in, really embodying this part of the feminine and sharing it with the world. But, that's when the desire sparked, or shouldn't say that's when it sparked. That's when it revealed itself to me. And I kind of could put the pieces together. So flash forward from age 6 to age 27. No, age 26, I started to surround myself with more people that were doing personal development work, and I'm leaving out a whole chunk of my life, but that's okay because I'm going to start it from here. But started surrounding myself with people who were doing a lot of personal development work, and I began to be introduced to these women who were studying in a tantra school. I was like, what's tantra? With Layla Martin. And they were all about sacred sexuality. And I was like, what's sacred sexuality? I had completely repressed that part of myself. And I remember being on a retreat, and it was a coach's retreat, and it was, equal parts men and women. Every single woman there, except for me and one other, were sex coaches. And they were having so much fun. They were so liberated. They were just like in pleasure. And I felt this like orgasmic bliss in my body in their presence. And I was like, at the same time, I had this trigger of like, oh my God, why did they trigger me so bad? So that was kind of this moment. So in 2018, the desire was sparked again. And that thread it revealed itself to me again. And I've read about this in numerous books at this point now, but it's like when there's like a truth that lives so deeply in your bones and it gets activated, there's just absolutely no way to ignore it anymore. There gets that, you get to that point in your life where you just can't ignore it. And that had happened for me. I realized I was living in complete misalignment. I was going to school to be a physical therapist. I was working as a physical therapist assistant. I was a personal trainer. I had no personal life. I just would go to the beach and rock climb. And as a physical therapist assistant and as a personal trainer, I'm so grateful that I had those, that I have that background, because I got to feel people's bodies in my presence and notice how there's an energetic and spiritual component to physical pain, or, in personal training, with women who couldn't lose weight. It was so much deeper than just the physical knee pain or inability to lose that 10 pounds. It's not what it really was. It was this life force that was missing, and I could just feel that. And it really just started to work itself through me at that point, the gift of being able to energetically feel what was going on in someone's body. And for whatever reason, most of the women who would land in my field had some sort of rupture in their sexuality and in their expression, which I connect to sexuality, in their expression and in their connection to a higher power, which now I connect to sexuality, because that's the source of feminine power is the womb. And it's such a spiritual calling that we don't learn growing up. So women just are running around in this world with no awareness that there is this huge source of power in their bodies. And it's been repressed, denied, shamed for ages. So no wonder there's pain there. No wonder there's, PCOS or infertility, and this isn't to say it's always a spiritual energetic thing, but things like that, or not being able to lose weight or whatever have you, that, these issues where we're trying to work on the surface, I was noticing are so much deeper. And so I noticed that I was living out of alignment when I went to that retreat and met those tantric coaches. And I just, at that point, couldn't deny myself of the desire to follow the thread. So I dropped out of school. I quit my jobs. I asked my personal training clients to follow me, if they would follow me, if I just started my own outdoor training program, just to keep the money flowing while I figured out how I would transition. And all of them said yes. So I was able to do that. And from that point forward, I was just faced with lesson after lesson after lesson in the realm of owning my feminine power. And that comes through following, purpose and passion, and feeling like I had the autonomy and the ability to go after what I wanted, and to use my creative power. And it came through the form of a very spiritually nourishing and telling relationship where, all the love ruptures were illuminated, and I got to really feel what that's like, and being with a masculine counterpart, and even had my own, phase of womb trauma with that lover having to have an abortion. And you know, literally feeling lost in my womb. And all of it now in retrospect was a part of this sexual awakening.
Wow.
And because there was so much, you know, familial, ancestral trauma living in my body, I couldn't be that fully, I couldn't follow that thread of desire and embody it fully until I moved that through my bones. And, you know, you had said something which just felt so good to receive, but that, you know, you see this embodiment of the feminine that's just, you know, like it's sacred. And that feels so nice to receive, because I had to really ingrain that into my brain, that this thread that I was following isn't not for show, not for physical, you know, like gain or anything. It's just who I am. And to deny ourselves the joy of being who we are at our core for our entire lives is like, that's the source of all pain, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I had to do this work from 2018, 2019, 2020 of like really unraveling from the stories that had kept me in this tightly confined box, which meant exploring my sexuality, really embracing my body as it was, and going through that womb trauma, also visiting my ancestral land. So I'm half Indonesian and half Caucasian. So I went back to Bali in 2019, right after that womb trauma, right after the ending of that really pivotal relationship, and got to spend some time with my grandmother and my mom, who that was like my religious side of the family in our homeland. And, you know, really got to energetically feel this clearing of the feminine and this reclamation happening through me. And I literally would just feel this vibratory pulse in my pussy, and I'd be like, what is that? Is that bad? Like, what's happening right now? Like, I could just feel life force being restored into my body, like during my 2 months in Bali. And so that was really like the, you know, I said 2018 was the moment when like the desire revealed itself and I had to follow it. But like the moment where it became embedded in my DNA was in 2019 when I went back to my roots, you know, and reclaimed that feminine power and was like, no, this is mine, and we're doing this. And I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for all of us. And while I was there, I also was exposed to more of the tantric teachings through the school of yoga. It's like the somatic school of yoga that I'm trained in, called Embodied Flow. It's heavily based on tantra. And so a lot of the principles of tantra were introduced to me, and I was able to fully kind of get this confirmation that everything I'd been feeling in my body about sexuality being a sacred part of our life force, and, you know, the feminine being so powerful, and she's not lesser than any man, like the god and the goddess, like they need each other. And to have one without the other is just like, you know, you're missing out on so much of life. And so to have that confirmation of like, oh, okay, everything I knew to be true in my bones was finally confirmed as I studied more of my body, practiced more, you know, of these tantric teachings, and followed the path of like Hindu goddess studies and really understanding all of that. Every thread just brought me deeper and deeper into the truth that sexuality is sacred. And so, yeah, from then on, it's been really powerful to reclaim that for my family and for my, you know, for the feminine lineage in general, and my studies of the womb and sacred yoni healing and, you know, inviting God, keeping God in the conversation. That's really been my path ever since then. And coming out to share this work and teach it from a truly embodied place started in 2021, early 2021. And yeah, it was scary to reveal myself to the world and my family. You know, they all follow me on Instagram still. Everyone still follows me. I know they read all my things, you know, it's like, but that's what I really, really stand for, is this erotic innocence that we as women get to have the freedom to express ourselves sexually for nobody else but ourselves. If it feels true, we get to have that. So, yeah, it's just been such a liberating journey, not just for me, but also just, for the lineage and storyline of the entire feminine, the energetics of the feminine, and reviving that sexual aliveness so that she can thrive. And ever since, it's been fucking magic.
Yeah. Magic is, I know, the word that I would use as well. And last week on the podcast, we had somebody talking about the sacral chakra, and everything that you're speaking to resonates with me in thinking about that, right? That space of creativity, of sexuality, of pleasure, all of that. And you mentioned tantra, and I know from your profile you also practice Reiki as well. And so just to have all of these elements to be able to bring into sexuality, that is sacred sexuality, right? It is this space where sexuality and energetics exist, and you're fully embodying that, which is magic, as you said.
Thank you. Yeah, and you shared with me that that's like a piece that you're really wanting to share more of that cross section in yourself, just like the energetics of sexuality and allowing yourself to be seen in that. It's like it can be scary because there's been such a split in religion, and like religion being spirit, like the only spiritual path, and sex, and so to be someone, and I really feel like every woman at their core, when they activate that sacral, they know if this is spiritual, this is so far beyond, this is energetic, this is so far beyond, where's my clitoris? How do I have better orgasms? Orgasms are a fucking key, and they connect you. Like, I love to remember this and to say this, that, orgasms are one of the only places in time where we can be fully in our bodies and fully out of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, so deeply connected to all of life and so anchored in the body.
Yeah.
I
know. It's fascinating. I coach people on that all the time. I'm like, your orgasm is your connection, is your source to higher power, right? Whatever higher power means for you, And I love that you did share the religious background, because my gosh, I can only think of the more of the hurdles that you had to go through in embracing and embodying this part of who you are, right? Who you were meant to be. And to be able to bring that to the table for women that relate so much to that story and that have the same upbringing and maybe do have shameful memories around sexuality and embracing that part of themselves. I think that's, incredible to be able to speak from that.
Yeah, it is. It's also like something that I see a lot in the women that pop into my world. I'm sure you see it too. Just it's the religious shame that keeps them from being able to like have orgasms and be sexually expressed, and so. Yeah, it's really powerful that we're finally shifting this fucking paradigm. Yeah.
I would love if you could, because as I've explained, like I am really, I feel I'm being so called to this energetic space. And for the last few months, I've been really just leading those lives separately. And so now, as I said, like bringing these two together. But I find that for me personally, the struggle is that I am very much like in my masculine, like just my energy. I'm sure you can tell, like even just in my demeanor on this call, like I am more in the masculinity of myself. So in the last year, really, I would say really working to uncover and embrace that feminine side. And so you mentioned things like Tantra and Reiki and yoni pleasure practices, right? Like bringing more of those into the space. But what happened for me was that when I feel like I went from 0 to 100 in the space of femininity, right? And so then now I'm embracing in my feminine and letting that show up more in my business. And so then the masculine gets turned off. So the structure got turned off, right? Like, and so then that reflects in your financial space, that reflects maybe in your relationships. I'm sure my husband was probably like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what do you want? You want me to do what? Like you're meditating now? Like what is this, but it's all part of the journey. So what other things for you would you say, or someone that is trying to embrace their feminine more, what things do you suggest for them to look into for resources?
I love this question.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, I'm always just in awe of I'm single and live in my own house, so I don't have people around me when I'm changing and doing my weird shit, or when I'm transforming, but the women like you who have husbands and families and dogs, it's silly, but just who have whole lives and are going through this inner shit, it's so much respect. Because it takes a lot to hold on to that while the rest of the world is still spinning around you. So I've got it easy. I have to say, it's not always, but, I just really honor and respect you for being able to honor that while you're in space with your husband.
Yeah.
So,
appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, this is actually something that's been so alive in my field right now. So I'm really glad that you asked this question. Energetics, of course, that's a big part of, what I'm passionate about. And it's interesting because with energetics, you can't teach it from a standard, there's not a standardized text or certification program that can ever instill someone with the energetic knowings that occur from personally embodied exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like this is what's happened for you. And I'm sure a lot of the podcast listeners who've gone down this path of sexual awakening and then all of a sudden we're like, whoa, there's a lot here, there's a lot of energy because you're open to it. So yeah, that piece of swinging all the way to the other side and then needing to come back and then also finding yourself stuck and well, now I still feel like I'm in my masculine and I want to bring more of the feminine in, and this has been so alive in my field, and I think in the collective in general of the divine feminine isn't this goddess Shakti that runs in the opposite direction of the masculine God, and that's how I like to refer to it. I like to see God as a masculine figure because of the way it's been instilled since the beginning of time, and denial of the masculine or the father archetype is denial of God in that source. And, we need both. We need Shiva, who's the masculine. We need Shakti, who's the feminine. And that's the only way we can really live in harmony. So, when you swing to that side, when women swing to that side of being so embodied in their goddess and they're I'm just living for pleasure, and you lose the structure, you got flow, but you're where the fuck am I flowing to?
Exactly.
And what's next, and then eventually that gets exhausting. So you're oh, okay, gotta buckle down, and then you're all of a sudden you're back to this, imbalanced masculine who forgets about the artistry of life. And that's right here is the space of true embodied feminine work, which is redefining what the masculine is for you and how that energy expresses through you. And it doesn't have to be this really structured, rigid. Yeah, it doesn't have to be this and what I'm feeling in my body is this tension, this tightness, this kind of gotta get things done, It's yes, and what if he softened? What if he just was okay, I'm consciousness, I'm presence, I'm feeling all that's here, and this is next step. This is the next step to take, and then next, and then next. And let that be the masculine consciousness that then invites your feminine back in to really feel oh, I can be held in this space. He can direct me. I can be creative. I can have this artistry. I can flow, but I know I'm so safe and I'm so held within this container. And the way that I teach it, I actually just finished a program, called Surrender, which was all about reintegrating aspects of the masculine back into the feminine, such as discipline and direction and discernment, which are, parts of the masculine that when a more feminine embodied woman, kind of really swings to that side of the path, she rejects it and then misses it and then goes back to it and then is back in that grind like you're talking about. So, what I was teaching in there and what I think is what I know to be really helpful for a lot of women is addressing that rupture in the relationship with the masculine and the archetype of the father. When did that happen? when did that distrust or like rebellion kind of kick in towards the masculine that caused you to run the other way? And then you still didn't trust, when you needed him again, you still didn't trust him to show up. So now you're holding all this, you know, tension in the body to like get things done. Like, when did that happen? Who dropped you?
So deep. Yeah, that's oh, that takes you back to like the inner child work and all that, you know, because that's that likely is where that stems from, right? My parents divorced when I was 2. My father raised me, right? I have all the daddy issues, quote unquote, you know.
Yeah. I love to hear it in that way. And yeah, you're so right. It is, you know, it's the daddy issues, but it's also like, okay, you have like little girl daddy, and then you have like big girl daddy. I'm gonna be baby girl, you're gonna be daddy, and like it's gonna be hot. No longer this like, daddy, where are you? Like, do everything. You know, there's this like evolution that happens, and we reclaim those parts of ourselves, but in a new and like empowered sense. And so, yeah, that's interesting that you had that experience. You said your dad raised you from age 2. Yeah. So, you know, what I would see in that is like not having that feminine influence likely created this picture that, you know, there was really only one way to survive or thrive. And, you know, if that was a part of it, but just like, there's only one way to do it. And it's, you know, without the example of the balance and the harmony, then we don't know any better, you know? And so that repair right there, like coming back to the inner child, also creates a repair in the woman, you know, like where is that little girl still running my show when it comes to my inner union, you know, because like it happens. Yeah. And you don't have to like mature right away, but when you can notice when it's happening, that's the liberation. Is like, okay, I'm like rebelling and creating disharmony within myself because I'm like pushing back against this masculine energy that I'm painting to be my dad, you know, or like the part of my dad that I'm like, oh no, I got it, you know, or like, why did you do that? You know, like, whoa, this isn't about what's happening in the present moment. This is my little girl, you know, and that, I mean, I think that's the place to start, like for women who are in this space of like, embodying their feminine, but they're like also noticing this. One piece I didn't say and that I think is important to say is a lot of women who get into the feminine embodiment world start from a place of, I've been so in my masculine, I'm so tired of it, like I need to get out of it. My response is, you just need a better one. Like, no, you want him. Yeah. Trust me, you want him, you know, and it will create a structure for better, more fulfilling, pleasure-filled feminine expression, you know? So it's a new way of looking at things. But, you know, in the world of sex coaching and all of that, it's like, you're literally, you're not just receiving all the time and you're not just giving all the time. If you're engaging in self-pleasure practices, you're literally doing both all the time. It's like you know, you're engaging your masculine, your feminine energies. And so, to think that can only exist there and not in like the external world and energetically, like it gets to bleed over into everything. Yeah, absolutely. And that I'm glad that we touched on like the inner child stuff, because it's like sometimes I just want to tell her like, I got this, you know, like just calm down. Like you don't have to be doing so much, like going into this protective role. That was, I would say, like the monumental incident for me in my life when I was in the 5th grade. My dad, I essentially saved his life over a medical incident. And so from that moment, that was the Rachel that was created, the Rachel that has to be the doer of everything and hold the space for everyone and be the protector and the savior and always looking for that approval and, you know, for dad and the people around her to be proud of her. And so that's where my masculine, I feel like, was born. And so I appreciate you so much as validating that. Yes, I still want that part of me to be alive, because
exactly what you just described is what happened to me, right? I shifted to the other side of the spectrum completely, let go of that piece. Now here I am back in that place, but now trying to find where the two can exist, right? Which I know is possible because I see people doing that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's really powerful. And I think, you know, it is really important to be able to go back to that moment in time too and like witness like, okay, that's when it happened. And it happened for such good reason.
Yeah.
You know? Like it needed to.
Yeah.
It needed to. So like, yeah, there's just this redefining that gets to take place. And like, it's like we go back to that moment in time, but we choose a different timeline. And we choose a different way, you know? So yeah, it's a really beautiful space to be in, I think. And, I don't want to be like a naysayer or anything, but just, you know, there's like I feel like there's a lot of talk in the sexuality, pleasure, feminine embodiment world that actually like is destructive to the feminine because she's pushing even further and further away from the masculine. And, you know, patriarchal bullshit is fucked, yes. And like, there is a divine masculine, sacred masculine essence that exists that needs us as women to evoke it, you know, that needs us to step up and call it back. And so, yeah, it's like, this is kind of the next step and next layer of the work.
Yeah.
And drawing it back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned, if we could switch gears just a bit, you mentioned, like yoni pleasure practices. Do you practice with crystals and things like that in terms of sexuality? And if so, would you speak on those and what that really looks like?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love to tie this in too to the same kind of realm of energetics of like masculine and feminine. Because I personally am a firm believer in slow, sensual self-pleasure and what that can open up for a woman because yeah, that's a different masculine energy, right? It's a different form of it. It's still masculine, but it's more consciousness and presence versus doing for the outcome, which often happens when we pick up a vibrator.
Yes.
And there is nothing wrong with it. And if you're doing it and are noticing that you're not feeling fully fulfilled or pleasured, like your pleasure isn't, it doesn't feel like it's there, then that's where you get to take a step back and, you know, put the vibrator away for a while. So I actually don't own any vibrators. I own one like suction, clitoris thing from Womanizer because I won it one day and I was like, okay, of course. Actually, I think another company has sent me a vibrating dildo that has like a G-spot vibrator too. And I used it once and I was like, whoa, that was intense. But yeah, I encourage, and I teach this in my courses, and I teach this to all of my one-on-one clients. I have them use this in our time together, but yoni eggs and crystal pleasure wands. And it's twofold, right? And because what I'm all about is spiritual sexuality and like combining these two worlds of energetics and physicality, but like crystals hold energetic properties. Each one has its own individual resonance. And so we have like rose quartz or black obsidian or white jade or amethyst, and each individual one has a vibrational frequency that it emits and that it supports, that you're literally inviting into your most sacred portal to recharge. So if you're like listening to this and you charge your crystals out in the moon, or like you put your rose quartz on your heart when you're meditating or anything like that, like holy fuck, can you imagine what happens if you just put it in your yoni for a little bit?
Yeah.
Like it is literally the activator, and it can be. And they have been used, crystal yoni eggs have been used since the Chinese concubines. Like they've been used for ages. And it's just like it's a beautiful tool to use not only for the physical properties that it can or the physical benefits such as you know, increasing lubrication, having more sensation in the vaginal canal, having being able to do more Kegels and have that like tightness and the firmness, but just like there's physical benefits. And energetically, our yonis typically haven't been entered in a loving, healing, energetic like way, maybe ever. until we approach these slow self-pleasure practices, like using a yoni egg, not to have an orgasm, but to offer kind of this sacred ritual and ceremony for our beautiful fucking yoni who births life, receives pleasure, gives pleasure, like is the source of all, you know, like, thank you. And using the yoni egg really helps to restore that relationship of like, thank you. I'm not only here to like put a penis in you or a dildo in you. Like, I'm here to love you because holy fuck, thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the yoni egg itself and its crystal healing properties have the ability to like awaken that Shakti energy, the sacral chakra and the root chakra. And like if you're dealing with trauma that you want to be absorbed from the body, black obsidian is great. Or if you want to just invite in more self-love, rose quartz is great. I always recommend starting with a rose quartz yoni egg because it is so gentle and loving and just like approaches it from that place. So yoni eggs are great for that. And because I know someone's gonna ask this question, like I get asked this question a lot, like, do you just leave it in? Yes. Yes, you leave it in, and this is what builds a conversation with you and your body. Like, how's it feeling? Okay, are you ready to be removed? Do you want to stay in longer? Like, I can't tell you exactly what to do. I don't want to. Like, I want you to build that relationship, and that's what something really unique that using a yoni egg can offer. And then also, using crystal pleasure wands is like next level of that. Yeah. Because crystal pleasure wands don't vibrate. They are, there's something that you get to play with and see what feels right for my body. And in the sense of like inviting in this conscious masculine back into the body, I always I see this crystal pleasure wand as like as the masculine that I'm like honoring, bringing sacred ceremony to, and being like, yes, thank you. I'm going to let you enter me. Like, give me everything you want. I'm going to receive it. It's going to feel so juicy. and the crystal itself, right? Like providing those healing properties. So, there are steps to using a crystal pleasure wand that include, getting comfortable with your body first so that she feels ready and open to receive. Because this isn't about just having an orgasm. That will happen and it will be deeper and more beautiful than you've ever fucking experienced if you choose to go down this path and like slow down and be with it. It takes time. So I'm a huge lover and proponent of those tools. And, I also see crystals as the earth element, and it's a beautiful masculine energy that we want, like presence, stability, consciousness, just like, yeah.
I'm so glad that I asked about this, because I had at the time of this recording, the podcast is not out yet, but in a couple weeks, my podcast is coming out about my yoni egg pleasure, my experience for the first time. But God, did you hit the nail on the head, because immediately, when you said like, it's not just about getting to orgasm, and that was, my masculine mind, like, I remember laying there and I did all of this like journaling beforehand, and I created this like super sensual space, and I was home alone. It was like magical. And then I'm going and thinking like, okay, I'm going to put this thing in, and like, it's going to be this mind blowing orgasm. And then nothing is happening right away. Right. Like, I'm trying to get to there as quick as possible. Like, and in my head, I'm like, this is everything that you coach your clients on not to do, right? Like, go straight for orgasm. Like, this is meant for you to take the time. But of course, I was like, I'm going to grab my vibrator. I'm going to use both at the same time. As if I'm the only person in the world that's ever thought to use them at the same time. But, no, I'm excited to continue the practice, and like you said, just allow the crystal properties to do the magic. And I do try to do daily meditation. I coach a lot of people to do daily meditation. So I think that's my next move. I'm just going to insert my cute little crystal clear quartz yoni egg inside my vagina when I'm masturbating when I'm meditating every day, and just see if I notice any life changes in my meditation practice.
Yeah, hell yeah. I love that you just recorded an episode on it.
Yeah.
This is like firmly aligned. I'm curious, what's the longest period of time you've left it in your body?
I'm going to say I want to say like 20 minutes is probably max.
Oh my God. I can't wait for you to leave it in for as long as your yoni wants.
I was going to say, yeah. Do you practice and like insert and kind of just go on with life? Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, I need to get to that place because I've been going at it as if, okay, I have this amount of time to experience this, to have this practice, and it needs to be done before this amount of time, but I think and I did end up getting it drilled. So it, easy removal with the string attached and everything. Yeah, but thank you for that encouragement an invitation to leave it in a little bit longer. And
yeah, I can't wait to hear when you report back and let me know what happens.
I definitely will.
Yeah, that's the magic.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Chelsea. This was seriously amazing, and I would love for you to share just how people can find you through social media, and if you have any programs or anything that you want to mention for people, please do that, because you mentioned surrender. I've been seeing your stuff about surrender. I was a little late to the game on it, but I'm excited to hopefully take part of one of your programs in the future.
Yeah, I would love to share that. And thank you so much for bringing me on and including me and sharing me with your audience. I'm really excited to see who I get to connect with. And just really honored to get to share this information with a wider range of beautiful, beautiful souls.
Mm-hmm.
So the best place to find me is Instagram. I'm really active on there, stories, posts. That's slide into my DMs. I love talking to new ladies. And I have an online school called School for Embodied Women, which has a few like one-time master classes that you can take to like just get a dabble in my world and learn a little bit from me. But the best place to start if you're new to this world of slow sensual self-pleasure is called the Pleasure Path. And that's a 7-week self-study course where I share different codes to reintegrate spirituality and energetics into the sexual body and, really instill that pleasure isn't like a physical goal-oriented thing. It's energetic and like that's where it stems from. So a lot of the work that I teach in there will be like using the yoni egg and creating a pleasure altar and yoni gazing and slow self-pleasure with crystal wands. And I have some really beautiful pleasure meditations on there too. So it's a great way to kind of just scratch the surface in this spiritual realm of pleasure. If you're new to this aspect, I'm guessing some of the ladies that are listening to this podcast, or most of the listeners that are listening to this podcast, are like into sex, sexuality. So like,
I think so.
So not necessarily new into that world, but new into the spiritual sexual world. Like the Pleasure Path is definitely the place to begin. By the time this podcast launches, I'll actually be in the process of the next group after Surrender, which is called Devotion. And by the time this podcast launches, we'll be in the middle of it. But Surrender was a really fucking beautiful course. And I know that at some point it'll come through again. And perhaps by the time this podcast launches, like perhaps I'll have it as like a self-study. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen with it. But for now, we're going into Surrender was the program that invited the masculine back into the feminine embodiment world. And we're actually doing our closing call tomorrow. And I have a panel of men coming on to just like share their hearts and like really show these women that, we need each other. We want each other. And there's nothing to fear. So
that gives me all the feels. I love that.
Yeah, it's so special and really, I see it as like this is the evolution of feminine embodiment and sexuality because it also invites the masculine in a way where he can like make love to us in a way he never has before.
Yeah.
It's fucking brilliant.
Yes.
It feels so good.
Yes.
And then Devotion is the following course of Surrender. So Devotion is a 9-week program. We're starting on September 1st. So that one's going to be a 9-week program that really masters the artistry of sacred inner union through the lens of sexuality and pleasure. So it's going to be a really fucking magical ride. Really excited for that. So, I really work from my soul. So if a program comes through me, I launch it. And so when you're listening to this, there probably is going to be something new in my field. Just check back, who knows?
Yeah.
But there are plenty of ways to work with me. I also take one-on-one coaching clients, and I have a wait list right now. So that's all of the info is in the link in my bio, and I'm guessing I'll probably provide that for you as well. But
absolutely.
Yeah, those are the ways.
Thank you again so much. And again, thank you for doing this work, because there's not many people out there that are in this space. And I just appreciate everything that you're doing and sharing on this podcast today. Listening to my story, did not expect to go into as much personal detail as I did, but when you feel safe and that seems right, then you just go with it, right? So thank you again.
You're so welcome. Such a pleasure.
Yes. Until next time, because there will definitely be a next time.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a thing. And if you loved it so fucking much, be sure to leave a 5-star review. I'll see you next week, and until then, keep owning your sexual self.